Hey there YouTube, I'm Axel. I'm going to show you how to replace your fuel pump in your VL800 Suzuki C50 Boss. Should be models 2010 and up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Here we go. I picked up this fuel pump from fuelpumpfactory.com. Pretty awesome deal. It's 79 bucks versus the $500 total assembly you want to buy from Suzuki Direct. Tools you're going to need is going to be a 12mm wrench. You're going to need a 6, 5, 4, and 3mm Allen wrench set. I like to have a little screwdriver on hand. You're not really going to need these, but I have them because they're just on the table. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking this rear seat off, and I'm going to need a 6mm. Just pop that screw right out. And I've already got all this stuff pretty loose, so it should go out pretty quickly. So you sort of lift up and you pull. There's a little tongue piece here that sort of slides up underneath there. You have to have these Allen bolts all the way down to get that out of there or back in successfully. These are 6s also, I believe. Yes, they are. So I'm just going to pop those out. And make sure you got all your screws somewhere safe. Just keeping them on the table for now, but you can use something like one of these metal guys that hold your screws for you. Now, the things that can cause your fuel pump to go bad is like a rusty tank, rust getting inside of the fuel pump. You want to make sure that you don't use any kind of weird cleaners inside of your fuel tank. It can really jack it up. So again, with this seat, you're going to pull up and sort of pull back because it lips right up under there. So we got this little tongue here. We'll go ahead and set that aside. And for those of you that don't already know, you want to go ahead and ventilate your space because we're dealing with a gas tank here. It's going to get kind of smelly. So what we have next is you're going to want to go ahead and disconnect the battery. I already did that. So you just pop one of the screws loose for the positive terminal, leave it loose like that. You should be good to go. I like these ratcheting wrenches because they're much faster. You can pop that out of there, but before you take that loose, we're going to want to get the cluster off here, your gauges and all that. I believe that one is a 3mm, or excuse me, that's a 4. Just pop that in there. This is the only screw on this model. Your models might be a little different if your motorcycle's a little older or even a little newer than this one. You want to lift up and sort of push it forward because there's two little grommets here that hold it in place. So as you can see, it pushes up like that after you pop this screw out. You do also want to watch out for these little guys. Let me show you. These little guys here, they like to fall off whenever you take this apart. So normally what I do is I just take this piece and I'm going to put it off to the side here. Let it sort of just chill. And next, we can finish taking this screw out, or this bolt, put it with the rest of them. And you're gonna wanna, there's like two little pieces here and here under the gas tank that they're just like little circles like this, and underneath the gas tank here there's these little welded C-shaped pieces that sort of clasp onto the round circular rubber things that come off of the motorcycle that hold it in place. So what you're going to do is lift here. You're going to sort of pull the tank back as you're pulling up, if that makes sense. And as you can see, it's a little loose. I've already done this once. And once that's loose, what I like to do is sort of put it back there and pull the front part up here. And I've already taken these loose, but as you can see, I'll take and grab this piece down here and prop it like that, so I have more space. Now, your fuel line here, I'll show you. Your fuel line here is gonna have these sort of clamped inside, and the way you get it out is both of these have to be pushed at the same time, and then you can pull it out. Or if it's easier for you, you can do that here. So you got to push that side in along with the other side, and then just pull it this direction, and it should pop loose. So whichever one's easier for you, doesn't really matter. This connector is also normally connected here. I already disconnected it, so sometimes it's easier to use like a little pick, and you can press this in with it, because sometimes they can be a little tight if you've never undone it. So you do that, pop that loose, and that's pretty much it. Fuel pump's right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tank, and you want to be kind of careful, because if you turn it around where, you know, where your filler gap is, some of your fuel can spill out. So I did that by accident the first time I did this, so just so you know. And these are those little C-shaped pieces I was telling you about that sort of snug right here and here whenever you're putting the tank back on. So just so you remember that. So next part of the video, I am going to show you after I empty the fuel out of the tank with a little siphon hose. What we're going to do is put it on the table, and I'm going to remove the fuel tank and show you how to do that. Or I'm going to remove the fuel pump and show you how to do that. All right, guys, so here's what the underside of the fuel tank looks like. It's pretty straightforward here. You're going to want to take all of these bolts out, and those are 5 millimeters. They should be pretty tight. So I like to put my fuel tank in a little box like this, so it doesn't get scratched up and jacked up on like a, you know, a hard table surface. So just be mindful of that. To loosen them all up. Then I can go back . And just pop them all out. Set them aside in our little tray. All right, and as you can see, it's already sort of popping out. You're going to have a little or a pretty large O-ring around here that you want to kind of keep in place. We'll use a little bit of fuel to coat that whenever we put this back together. So the fuel pump itself is a pretty odd shape, so when you take it out of there, just be kind of mindful of the wiring. You don't want to get something caught and then have to repair a wire. So you'll see that there is a connector here, and you're going to want to pop that loose. I usually just stuff that back in there. So pull that out. Got to twist a little bit, so I don't know if you saw that. So it goes in like that. Take it out. Twist. Got another little elbow at the very end there, and bam, she's out. So go ahead and take this out of there and get the next part of the video. Okay, so everything that comes with this kit that I have, which is, it has a part number on it necessarily, but I will put that in the link with this video. So you're going to have a new O-ring to seal the gas tank to the fuel pump here. Get a new hose. These little clamps here, which are okay. I prefer to use a different style, but they're pretty good. You also have this connector here. If you get a new one, which is pretty nice. You also get another new grommet style seal for the fuel pump, and a brand new little filter, which is very awesome. These, you try to get these from Suzuki, they're so expensive. So what we're gonna do, the basic thing that you need to do is, if you're having any trouble, which I like to just take photos of the whole entire piece so I know exactly where everything goes before I finish, before I start taking it apart actually. And then I start taking it apart. So like I'll take pictures of these little screws here, where all the wiring is going, what's connected to where, just in case I have to take more of it apart than I actually mean to. So what you're gonna start off with here is this piece. So let's go ahead and get our Phillips screwdriver, and we're gonna pop these screws loose. Complicated with one hand than I thought it was going to be. Set that screw off to the side. Sorry for the blurriness there. Take this screw as well. Pop that baby off to the side. Take this out. So there we go. Now, what we're gonna do is, as you can see, my filter is pretty jacked up here. When this bike got to me, had a bunch of chunks of the wire loom that you'll normally see around these inside of the gas tank. So there was a little bit too much acid in there. You don't really want to put a bunch of cleaner in your gas tank because it's going to strip out the protective coating in there, which protects you from rust. But kind of a moot point now, especially if you're watching this video. You're probably having that issue, so you got to do what you got to do. So let's let's go ahead and take this little clamp off right here. I may end up replacing some of this wiring, but we'll see. That being said, if you have a bunch of rust in your tank, you're going to want to use some deruster. You're going to want to get that out of there, because if you don't, it's just going to mess up another fuel pump. So don't just, replace this hoping that's going to solve your problems if you haven't cleaned out your tank and resealed it. So this piece comes off as well. Sort of just hangs out right there. And my original wire was eaten up as well. So when I took this apart in the first place, just to get a look at it and test it, it was covered in rust and all this stuff. So just be aware that I may have to do some modifications here. There's also, there's also a connector right here that you want to disconnect before you pop this thing loose. Let's go ahead and turn it. It's just another press and pull. There we go. All right, let's set it up from there. You can kind of see what I'm doing. There we go. When you're having issues with that, just use a little pick or a little flathead screwdriver. Now, you want to make a note of where all this stuff's at, how it's turned, how it's, setting on here. As you can kind of see, this only really goes one way. It sets like that. And it should just pop right out, just like that. So you're going to have a little bit of fuel leaking out, or you may not, depending on how jacked up your fuel pump was or is. We should be able to pop this guy off. So you're going to want to use your new fuel pump there. So it's going to go in just like that. Your filter, of course, is going to go on the other side. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. Your filter is going to want to go on the other side. Now, I see a little star washer there, which I don't think there is a screw or anything on this one, so we're just going to pop that on, since this little plastic piece is going to hold it in place, and then this little hole here will sort of mesh right there. So I don't really know what that star washer's for, to be honest. Maybe you can just set it. This should just pop on like that. You're gonna kind of have to force it on as far as you can, which should go all the way down. So that looks pretty good. So there we go, there's that side. And now for this side, I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at this other fuel pump. And you have a positive on the left and a negative on the right, just like the new one. So that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this bad boy on there, which should just set just like that. We should have had this piece here, which I want to say goes over here on this side. Double check here. Yeah, so this little rubbery piece here will go on this side, kind of just like that. Sort of protect everything. Fits right on there, nice and easy. Get this plastic stuff out of the way. Found this little connection adapter here, which it's interesting. It looks basically the same as the old one. Let's give it a try and make sure that it actually clicks in. And it seems to fit, so that's pretty awesome. That's a direct fit. I don't really have to modify anything, which is nice. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put this in over here. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this little grommet out of this side, because we got a new one. I'm gonna get some of that fuel there, sort of coat it a little bit. Get a nice good seal. And you want to pop it in this side going in. So just kind of pay attention how you take it out. That's how it'll go back in, but it's pretty obvious that this side is going to be out here so that it can accommodate the size of the fuel pump. Let's go ahead and pop that in. And go ahead and press this in there, which should set like that. Press it as much as possible. I'm gonna make sure it clicks into place here. Oh, there we go. That looks right. Okay, so we got that in there. Let's go ahead and make sure we put the connector back. Plug that bad boy back in. All right, that's plugged in. Now, unless you're like, tubing is real jacked up, or, if you've replaced it recently, then you won't really have to use that piece. But if you need it, I would go ahead and use it. It's not a bad idea to swap this stuff out while you have it apart now, so you don't have to deal with that later on, if you're having issues. So again, this has a fair amount of corrosion on it. I may just take a wire brush to it. It's still in okay-ish condition, but honestly I might end up replacing it. Either way, I'm just going to show you how to finish this out. So you want to make sure you put that ground cable back on and screw it back down. What's interesting to me is this has you know, two of these little clamps here, and when I took this apart originally, the tube was just sort of going up here in this area where, you know, this plastic piece is. I didn't see it connected to anything up here on top of the fuel pump, and it was literally just connected to this little guy here, which I think is a one-way valve, I believe. So I want to say it just sucks in, you know, through here, and goes in through here, and then comes, you know, back through the valve one way, and then recirculates, and goes out, you know, through here, obviously. But the overflow, like, circulates out this way. So as far as I can tell, that should be pretty much it. I am not a you know, professional motorcycle mechanic, but I was a vehicle mechanic and a forklift mechanic, and I'd say I'm pretty confident in doing something like this. If I can do it, you can do it. And using this fuel pump from Fuel Pump Factory really helped a lot. So you might have, I just noticed there might be a little bit, you might have to fold this guy down just a little bit. Let me see if I can reposition the camera just a hair so you can see a little better. But yeah, you might have to roll this a little bit this way to get this plastic piece back on there, but shouldn't be super difficult. Make sure all this stuff's down, back down, and I believe this goes back in like here. Yeah, it does. Goes back in like here. Sort of holds that part of the fuel pump down. Which you might not be able to use this, you know, this little piece, or you might have to modify that a little bit to get this to set right, because in order for it to reach, you might actually be able to just get away without having it on there, so that way it'll line up completely after you're done. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do it that way. Just forget about using that piece. Go ahead and put it down like that, and pop this little piece back on, if you can see that. Alright, let's do it. So put this bad boy back on there. Like I said, you might have to squish a little bit, but shouldn't really hurt it. Shouldn't be a big deal. Make sure your screw holes line up, and then pop your two screws in. Like I said, your fuel pump might be set up just a little bit differently, but it's pretty simple. Just swap this piece out. I thought it was going to be a little more complicated, but it really wasn't bad. So after you finish putting this back together, just install your fuel tank back on. After you put the fuel pump back in with the new O-ring, put a little bit of fuel on it. Make sure your tank's clean and rust free and sealed, and then you should be rocking and rolling. If you have any kind of questions, and there it is all back together. If you have any kind of questions, you can leave them in the comments, but you know, for the most part, this should be pretty straightforward after you get everything out. And that's it, guys. Thanks.